Arsenal fans, are you happy with the way Andrea Beta is handling this transfer windows business? Because look at the other teams, the way they are moving. Liverpool, Milos Kakes, Florian Wirtz, Jeremy Frimpong, and now they are in for Alexander Isak. You go to Manchester City, they have Ryan Nouri, Tijani Reinders, Ryan Chaki. They are doing business like crazy. Manchester United are also slow, but at least they have signed Matthias Cunha, and the Brembomo deal is on the way. But you look at Arsenal club, every day they are linked to the top 2 strikers or some of the best strikers in the world, but they are not signing anyone. They are linked to Benjamin Sesko. They have not signed Sesko. They are linked to Victor Gyökeres. They have not signed Victor Gyökeres. Every day it is negotiations and advancing. So Arsenal fans, are you happy with the way your club is moving in this transfer window? You have seen your team finishing third for 3 consecutive seasons. If Arsenal was a serious club like the way Manchester City and Liverpool are moving, man, Arsenal now need to have signed like 5 players, man, because this team is not ready, and they need to upgrade this team massively. So the ball is to you, Mikel Arteta. The ball is to you, Andrea Beta, because if you look this Arsenal team on sheet, it has some of the best players in the world. It has some of the most decent players in the world. But when it comes to results, they always find a way to fumble the league at some point in the season, and especially it usually happens during December. So in today's video, we are going to look deep into Arsenal squad and Mikel Arteta. We're going to leave the starting 11, the second option, the third option, and fourth option, if there is fourth option in that position, because this Arsenal squad, it has some many players playing in similar position, which is not helping the team at some point, and some point it is helping the team. We see players who actually are supposed to play at the midfield, the likes of Mikel Merino, playing up front, because at front they don't have that depth. There are players who usually played up front last season, the likes of Gabriel Jesus and Kai Havertz. Most of the part of the season they were injured. So what they had to do, they had to come back to their midfield and take Mikel Merino and put him up front there to see if he can deliver the goals. And luckily Mikel Merino delivered the goals, because he's a very good finisher. We even saw in those games, in those UEFA Nations League goals, Mikel Merino is a good finisher. But is Mikel Merino the long-term solution? No, he's nowhere near being the long-term solution. So let's take a deep dive in this Arsenal squad, where Arsenal have to improve, because they definitely need to improve. Finishing second for 3 times in a row, that shows you are not there. Your team is not on the level of winning the Premier League. So let's get direct into it. Their first team goalkeeper is David Raya, a very brilliant goalkeeper. This Spaniard has bailed Arsenal for most parts of the season. That game against Manchester United, Arsenal could have easily lost that game if it was not for David Raya. For the goalkeeper position, he is a very goalkeeper. Although Arsenal were linked to Joan Garcia, who definitely joined Bayern earlier last week. But I think for David Raya, for that position, they are set. David Raya is that guy who can make excellent saves. He can save penalties, grabbing 14 clean sheets in the Premier League this season, winning back-to-back Golden Gloves in the Premier League. It shows that David Raya is a good goalkeeper. And in that position, I think Arsenal are set to go. Then for the left-back position, man, Arsenal for the left back position, they are stuck. This position is filled, man. You have Lewis Kelly, who generally has been the starter for Arsenal for the most parts of the second half of last season. Then you have Zinchenko, of which has been linked to leaving Arsenal, but at the moment when I'm making this video, Zinchenko is still an Arsenal player. Then we have Takehiro Tomiyasu and Riccardo Calafiori. All these are left back at Arsenal, but you know, Riccardo Calafiori is versatile. Sometimes he can also play in the centre back position when the shortage of centre backs at Arsenal, whether through an injury or through anything. We have seen Riccardo Calafiori playing in that position. So all these players at left back position, Lewis Kelly, Calafiori, Zinchenko, and Takehiro Tomiyasu, these are 4 players in one position. But what is surprising, only one player is usually available for that position, and that is Lewis Kelly, which is very dangerous, because the moment Lewis Kelly gets an injury, we have 3 players who can play in the same position. But the problem is these guys are never available. We have Takehiro Tomiyasu, guy always injured. Riccardo Calafiori, whenever he comes back and play, he's a very good player, but also injury crisis. Zinchenko, I don't know the last time I saw Zinchenko playing in an Arsenal game. So Arsenal, either of these 3 players has to stay at the club, and if he stays at the club, he will have to make sure that he's available, so that in any case that Lewis Kelly is injured, you can see him playing in that position. And the guy that I'm betting for, that maybe he can stay fit and play for Arsenal, because he has proved previously that he can play in that position and he has scored important goals, especially that goal against Manchester City, I think is Riccardo Calafiori. So for Riccardo Calafiori is the one who I'm going to place him for the second left back position. Then there are two center backs. We all know their center back partnership, Saliba and Gabriel Magalhaes. That is the center back partnership that Mikel Arteta has been using for the past 2 seasons. So I think that it will remain that way. But the question comes in. We have seen when Gabriel Magalhaes was injured, Arsenal suffered, man. They conceded goals which they should have conceded. Because you know Gabriel Magalhaes is a Brexit type of defender. Gabriel Magalhaes is a Brexit type of defender. You come to William Saliba is a Rolls Royce. So that combination, it usually goes right for Mikel Arteta. But the moment one of them is injured, it is usually a crisis for Mikel Arteta. So how will Mikel Arteta solve this problem? Let's look at the centre backs available for Arsenal. You see, the second centre back who can play in that position, as I've said, is Ricardo Calafiori. But you know Ricardo Calafiori is originally a left back. The other guy who I can think of can play for Arsenal if he's available is Jacob Kiwior, which is a very risky move for Arsenal going to next season. You cannot go to next season where your centre back partnership, there's only one guy on the bench who can play when the other one is injured. Because when Saliba is injured, the only guy I can think of is Kiwior to fill that position, who is originally a centre back. When Gabriel Magalhaes is injured, the only guy I can think of to fill that position, it is Jacob Kiwior, which is very dangerous, man. So I think Arsenal, Andrea Beta, the guys in charge of transfer at Arsenal, Stan Kroenke, you should definitely add a centre back for Mikel Arteta. The man you'll get maybe for selling two or one of these left backs who are stuck in that left back position. Maybe you can use that money to get Mikel Arteta another centre back. Then going on to right back, we have Jurrien Timber. Jurrien Timber has proved very brilliant in that position. I have nothing to say against Jurrien Timber. Although in that game against PSG, Vizavarskelia buried him alive, but Jurrien Timber is one of the best defenders defensively in the world. That I can give Jurrien Timber. And his backup option for that position is Ben White. And for Ben White, I think Ben White has had a lot of problems to a point that he was not playing for the England national team because he was not in good terms with Gareth Southgate. But now I think Thomas Tuchel is the coach for England. He might play for England again. And coming back to Arsenal, we've not seen him play a lot of games this season, but I think it is because of his age, and the first option for that right back position is playing very good. So I think an addition to that right back position might be good because the way Ben White is not available. But for Jurrien Timber, if he will not get injured next season the way he has been getting injured in the previous season, I think that position might be stuck. Going on to the midfield, this is where it raises a lot of questions because they have released Jorginho, who was playing for Palmeiras, who was playing really good in the Club World Cup. For Thomas Partey, I think he might also leave the club because they cannot come to an agreement of his salary. All that being said, Zubimendi is in, and I think he can play. They use 2 pivots, and I think in that one pivot, Martin Zubimendi can play in that pivot. And then the other pivot, obviously, it has to be Super Declan Rice. Declan Rice obviously has a direct opportunity in this Arsenal team. He directly dives into the starting 11 without any debate. But for the position of Martin Zubimendi, I think other Arsenal fans might argue that why not start Mikel Merino in that position? But I think the physicality of Mikel Merino, I think, is the huge problem in that Arsenal midfield. The way a midfield in the Premier League has to be physically strong and physically fit. I think for Mikel Merino, that might be a problem. Not because of injuries, no. But you say, Mikel Merino is the types of players, the only player I can compare him, maybe Joshua Zirkzee, is that player who, like, he's not very strong. He's not a strong guy. You cannot compare him to the likes of Moises Caicedo or Manuel Ugarte. He's not that strong guy. That is why I think they should start Martin Zubimendi over Mikel Merino in that position. Then for the number 10 position, of course, it has to be their captain, Martin Odegaard. Mikel Arteta loves the guy. He's the captain of the club, so I don't see Arsenal replacing him anytime soon. And his backup option, of course, it has to be Ethan Nwaneri. But in these 3 midfielders, for the holding midfielder, maybe Declan Rice can play that. Then for the central midfielder, maybe Martin Zubimendi can play that. For the number 10, it is Martin Odegaard. Martin Odegaard's backup, it is Ethan Nwaneri. For Zubimendi backup, I think it is Mikel Merino if he'll not play up front. For Declan Rice backup, I think it is where there's a question mark because Jorginho left the club. For Thomas Partey, they cannot come to an agreement with his salary. If they come to an agreement with his salary, of course, he will be the backup option for Declan Rice. But if they will not come to a resolution of his salary, I think Arsenal might also need another midfielder, or they can also go to the academy and get another midfield. Going to Arsenal's attack, the left wing position, obviously the starter is Gabriel Martinelli, and his backup option is Leandro Trossard, of which I can't complain in this position. Then the right wing position, I think this is where, if Bukayo Saka is injured and Sterling is back to Chelsea, I think this is where Arsenal might also get into trouble, man. You need backup for Bukayo Saka. Bukayo Saka has been playing a lot of games this season, man. And I think that is the reason why this kid gets injured. So if you get a backup option for Bukayo Saka, it will be good to balance the team. Saka plays for 70 minutes, you know, he does his thing, then he goes outside and another player comes in to finish the job. Then the number 9 position, and I think this is the position Arsenal have been waiting. The number 9 positions, they have been playing with Gabriel Jesus, they have been playing with Kai Havertz, who is originally a number 10. So the only guy who's their number 9, it is Gabriel Jesus, and Gabriel Jesus is never available for the club, man. A player who is available is that player who can play over 25 games to 30 games, and Gabriel Jesus is not doing that for Arsenal. And Arsenal have been linked with Victor Gyökeres and Benjamin Sesko, but the problem is you don't know who they are going for, and if they are going for either of them, this transfer business is very slow, man. And I think Arsenal fans are getting frustrated at the moment. We just finished second for the 3rd consecutive season in the Premier League, and instead of giving the managers the players he wants, you give him the number 9, because that is the position that Arsenal fans have been crying, we don't have a top finisher, we don't have a top finisher. And it is almost July, the Club World Cup will end and people will go back to the preseason, and Arsenal are not giving him the striker. So I think Andrea Beta and all those guys that are in charge of transfer, it is up to you now, man, to give this Arsenal team the players they deserve so that they can take this team to the next level. I think for goalkeeper, the second goalkeeper is Neto, but Raya is good, and they need at least another centre back. They need at least another midfielder. They need a right wing who can back up Bukayo Saka. Then for the number 9 position, that is absolutely must for Arsenal to get a number 9 position. Leave your thought in the comment section on what you are thinking about the Arsenal team at the moment and the improvement that they should do going to next season. And Arsenal fans, tell me if you are happy with the way your team is handling business this summer. Don't forget to like, leave a subscription and a comment. Peace.